Welcome back to the channel. This is Shimpimpin. Today I'm going to be covering Bill Gates and his agenda with the GMO mosquitoes. So, imagine, hypothetically speaking, you are one of the richest people in the world and you have an idea in your head that you want to exterminate most of the world population by using vaccines. Huh? Because in a TED talk he did, he clearly said that he wanted to reduce the world's population. He doesn't like black people, first of all. I'll drop a Kanye bomb on you just like Kanye did with Bill Clinton during Katrina. They've been modifying animals for over 20 years now. They've been cloning people from the 1940s. That's just reality. Every commercial crop and commercial meat production that you can think of has been genetically modified in some way or form. Sadly so. Now, as far as the mosquitoes go, what them tell us the most is that the only thing we're doing is producing the males, and we're infecting the males with a bacteria, and the bacteria is going to reduce the population somehow. But if you are the type of person that wants to reduce the world population, and then you have over 20 years of corporate science, and this is special interest science, independent researchers is who I will listen to, because they're not funded by the corporations. Because when you're funded by the corporations, you have to sign NDA agreements, and then you're not allowed to say certain things, and you have to go along with the status quo. And their status quo might be some very nefarious stuff. So like I'm saying, think of it. You don't like people, you want to reduce the population, you have a whole bunch of money, yeah? And with that money, you hire scientists all over the world to do your bidding. So what is that bidding? Well, I can tell you as a Jamaican that, mosquitoes out there has definitely changed. They used to come out at night. They never normally trouble you in the daytime. But now they're out in the daytime and they're out in the nighttime. They're relentless. They don't respond, or should I say, they're now resistant to all the pesticides that we have, all the mosquito coils that we have, and they just keep on coming. And why is that? Well, you have had once again, if you have had over 20 years of manipulating these insects with various different scientists, it is logical to deduce that, I might make these insects more resistant to the pesticides that we have on sale. Fact of the matter is, these mosquitoes, you spray, they come back. You used to be able to spray the windows and they'd keep away. You can't do that anymore. You used to be able to light mosquito coils and they'd keep away. Can't do that anymore. So, yeah. Go and watch a few clips, break this down, and at the end of the video I'll drop some commentary.
You eating chicken, that's not a real animal. You eating pigs, that's not a real animal. You drinking cow milk, that's not a real animal. They genetically modified all of these animals. A mosquito just bite you, that's not a real animal. Bill Gates was making them, so they not natural. Salmon, sorry, not a real animal. I cannot lie, bitch, I only speak factual. Dogs and cats, not no real animal. Mice and rats, not no real animal. Goats and sheep, not no real animal. Shit is so fake, they might be supernatural. They made all of these fake animals international, and we be eating this shit is so radical. Sorry, a donkey is not a real animal. Most of these monkeys is not no real animals. Birds be robots, not real animals. If you be eating these shit, need to cancel it. They splicing these shit with humans, you a cannibal. And you be tearing it up like an animal. If you be eating it, you is irrational. Eat you some fruits and vegetables, it's natural. Come on part 2 if you want me to expose more of these fake ass animals.
Me don't know which part them breed a mosquito you come from. Them have on a helmet. They have on sleeve.
Where are we on that?
In the lab, there's a technique called CRISPR that can change the mosquito DNA in a way that either the population goes down a lot or it doesn't carry this parasite. And we're talking through with the African countries what sort of tests, trials do we need to do before that gets added to the arsenal. So it'll take a number of years to get all those country approvals, but the potential there to reduce the mosquito population and therefore locally get rid of the disease makes it a very promising addition. Now, malaria is, of course, transmitted by mosquitoes. I brought some here so you could experience this. We'll let those roam around the auditorium a little bit. There. There's no reason only poor people should have the experience. There's no reason only poor people should have the experience.
O'Neill here in Medellin, Colombia today, and I'm at the world's biggest mosquito factory for the World Mosquito Program. We're making in here 30 million mosquitoes a week. Come and have a look. We're doing it for a very serious reason. Cities like Medellin have suffered from diseases like dengue, Zika, chikungunya for decades, but not anymore. We've been able to bring the solution of Wolbachia mosquitoes to this city. When this bacteria called Wolbachia gets introduced into the mosquito, it stops their ability to transmit dengue. We release mosquitoes that have Wolbachia. Now they go and mate, and Wolbachia gets passed into the wild mosquito population. If we're going to control these diseases in all the tropical cities of the world, it's going to require a lot of mosquitoes. The mosquito life cycle starts with the egg, and in this room we've got a lot of eggs. Each one of these strips, these tiny black dots, are up to 10,000 mosquito eggs. Across all of these strips, about 1.5 million dried eggs waiting to hatch. In this tray, we've got the newly hatched eggs. They're little larvae, so small you can hardly see them. They're going to sit in here for a few days and eat and get bigger until they look like these ones over here. They're starting to turn into pupae. We're wanting to do the next step of sorting the males from the females. We want to do that so we can manipulate the sex ratio in the cages to be more female than male.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
The bottom ones along here are the boys, and the ones at the top are the girls. They're bigger. From here, they're going into the adult cages. We have adults that we continuously grow in what we call our brood stock. And then over here, we have the mass-produced mosquitoes getting ready to give us the eggs to go out directly into the field. It's crazy how they sound. You might wonder, what do we feed all these mosquitoes here? Well, I can tell you, we've got the good stuff in here. On the top shelf, literally, we've got the blood. They love it. Once the mosquitoes are grown, they're ready to go out into the field. The first way is to...
So tired of hearing that these crops are going to save the world. When it all comes down to it, again, we've got one genetically engineered crop that lets us put more herbicides in the environment. That's the bottom line.
It's in America that much of the genetic revolution is now taking place. And it's happening in the most unlikely locations.
So how many pigs have you got in the program? We've got about 200 pigs on the farm, and of those, about now 100 of them are clones.
From this isolated farm in rural Virginia, Dr. David Ayres is pioneering genetic research he believes will revolutionise food production, medicine and even warfare.
This is one of our cloned babies for our xenotransplantation product. What a little beauty.
This little piggy is a very special little piggy. It's been genetically engineered to make its organs suitable for transplantation into humans, a risky and so far unsuccessful procedure known as xenotransplantation.
So potentially, this little piglet could one day supply me a heart if I needed a transplant. a heart, a kidney, islet cells for diabetes, a whole variety of tissues.
Genes that would normally cause organ rejection by the human body have been removed from the DNA of these pigs, and human genes have been added to further improve compatibility. So, in effect, these pigs are part human.
You eating pigs, that's not a real animal. You drinking comic, that's not a real animal. They genetically modified all of these animals. A mosquito just bite you, that's not a real animal. Bill Gates was making them, so they're not natural.
80,000 people, waiting on organ lists, dying, waiting for those organs. We have the chance to have an unlimited supply.
But while trial transplants into baboons have begun, there's serious concerns about the health risks these organs might pose. There's already evidence that benign viruses which exist naturally in pigs could be transferred to humans with catastrophic consequences.
We know this is how AIDS was created. We know that almost all these terrible flus, SARS that we just went through, swine flu, avian flu, mad cow disease, we know these diseases, many of which we cannot even detect, go from animals to humans. And now the brilliant idea is to take these organs and put them directly into humans. If you want to have a good guess, a good gamble on where the next plague is coming from, it will come from xenotransplantation.
I can't say there's no risk. They're infinitesimal, but not zero.
Can you understand people saying, hey, no matter what assurances you give me, this still frightens me?
The people that are saying that are not sick people dying on waiting lists or people having to undergo 30 years of dialysis. Those are the people on waiting lists that have diabetes, that are blind or undergoing amputations for their disease. They're going to be the ones that are screaming for this technology.
David, how's this group of cattle being modified?
We've added a different human gene to these animals. This is a human milk protein gene to make a better infant formula that's more nutritious as well as less allergenic for those people that have milk allergies.
Rather than creating disease, Dr. Reyes says he's helping the world fight it. He's developing new drugs and vaccines in the milk and blood of these animals that he believes will help defeat everything from simple allergies to deadly plagues unleashed in biological warfare.
So you inject the pig with an anthrax or Ebola and then create this antibody, this vaccine.
Right, that then can be used as a vaccine for preventing this disease in thousands of soldiers out on the field that are exposed to biowarfare agents, or a whole population of a city with 1 million people that get exposed to it as an aerosol from a terrorist.
What about the possibility, though, of an infected pig escaping and getting into the food chain?
Well, it's very unlikely that they're going to escape because they're in an enclosed building, and then by law we have to double fence them.
So you guarantee our safety?
Sure.
No question.
No question.
But despite all the assurances, genetically modified animals have made it into the food chain. So far, none with exotic viruses, but certainly some pigs and possibly other animals with human genes have slipped through.
It is very probable that somewhere in America right now, hopefully not the person you're looking at, has already consumed an animal with human genes in it. And
really?
Yes.
So a sausage on the barbecue could well contain human genes?
Could have human genes in it. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Well, this is where the magic happens, I guess. This is the cloning lab. So
there seems no end to what scientists can achieve by mixing and matching the genes of various life forms. But just how far should they go in reshaping our world? Already, biotech companies have created featherless chickens, animals that glow in the dark, tomatoes containing fish genes, and even mice with human ears grafted to their backs.
People say you are playing God, you are meddling with nature, and that is not our domain.
As we have for hundreds of years, as soon as we domesticated animals and crops, we began genetically modifying them, not directly, but actually very crudely, by random breeding, by selecting for traits that we want. This is actually an improved process because we're very precisely targeting gene 1, gene 2. We know what that gene is going to do. We know what knocking it out or adding it is going to do. So we're actually being much more specific in how we're playing God.
I love this argument. I call it the beer and yeast argument. Hey, we've been doing this for thousands of years. They've taken human genes and put them in mice. They've taken flounder genes and put them into tomatoes. I know of no natural situation where humans have mated with mice, thank goodness, or fish have mated with, with tomatoes. This is new. We have never been able to cross species boundaries like this ever in history. And it is something we all need to look at very, very carefully.
And perhaps with good cause, as there's already evidence this technology is flawed. Even the much publicised cloning procedure that created Dolly the sheep has proven to be fraught with problems, producing animals that die premature and at times painful deaths.
Does anybody in the right mind think suddenly now we're going to limit this to its beneficial purposes? We already haven't. We've already seen some of the problems. We don't know what we're doing with cloning. We are seeing giantism. We've seen these little clones become huge. We're creating monsters, and we don't know why. So maybe we should stop.
Perhaps the most cautionary lesson of all is the story of America's Beltsville pigs. These pigs were engineered with human growth genes, genes that got wildly out of control. The pigs were riddled with disease, and within a year, most were dead.
Rob, it feels like the master and the apprentice.
You're doing pretty good.
Back in Newfoundland, on the pristine reaches of the Humber River, folk like Rob Solo aren't too sure about the science of this debate. All they know is that should one of the super salmon escape into the wild, it could spell disaster for their prized native salmon.
What's at stake?
A whole river, a whole species. And it wouldn't take too long. There's a real move afoot throughout the world to say no to genetically modified foods. And why should the salmon be any different? They should be treated the same. Why fool with nature? Why fool with perfection?
Historically, this is one of the world's great fisheries, isn't it?
Oh yes, we're standing on the edge of the Grand Banks, which are the largest cod fishery in the world, or the largest fishery in the world.
Undeterred by the stink over his controversial salmon, Dr. Fletcher has grand plans. He hopes to revolutionise aquaculture worldwide and create a new industry here in Newfoundland, where much of the once great fishing fleet now lies idle. His next challenge, to convince the rest of the world.
Do you believe in what you are doing, that it's safe and right?
Yeah.
Because some people would argue...
it's certainly safe for human consumption. I have no doubts about that part of it. Now, right, what does that mean by right?
Does an animal have the right to a certain genetic integrity? Do a few researchers have the wisdom, have the right to change forever the permanent genetic code of salmon, of all the crops of the world, of all the animals of the world, of human beings for fun and profit? Do they have that right? We don't believe that they do.
Well, I mean, frankly, it would be really nice if we had nothing but wild salmon out there all the time. We didn't have to do this. If you wish to have fish on your plate in the future, aquaculture is the way to go.
Captain Ibrahim Traoré has made headlines once again, this time by shutting the door on Bill Gates' Mosquito project in Burkina Faso. Yes, you heard that right. The controversial Target Malaria program, funded by the Gates Foundation, has officially been kicked out of West Africa.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
The idea sounded futuristic. Release genetically modified mosquitoes to fight malaria. But for locals, it felt more like a science experiment being run in their backyards. And the results? Instead of malaria cases going down, reports show they actually increased between 2019 and 2021. That was enough for Burkina Faso's government to step in. The special mosquito enclosures were ordered to be shut down. All remaining samples destroyed, and the project permanently halted. For many Africans, this was more than just about mosquitoes. It was about sovereignty. Why should billionaires be allowed to test their experiments on African soil? Traoré's move sent a loud message. Africa will no longer be a laboratory for foreign projects. The question now is, was this a missed opportunity to fight malaria, or a smart stand against dangerous outside interference?
And say, should Bill Gates be releasing 30 million genetically modified mosquitoes into the wild? Part of the mentality of Earth as engineering object, what could possibly go wrong? So I really wanted to take issue with this, because I do think that this is the sort of misinformation that both creates scientific illiteracy and damages and impacts negatively some of the significant progress that can be made in medicine and in science. So I want to speak very clearly as to what is going on, what the science is behind it, why this is super important. And then we can speak philosophically, if you guys are interested, on kind of should we be doing this sort of stuff and why? So
what's real here? Like what are actual facts versus fake news? Maybe that's a good place to start.
The most common disease carrying mosquitoes are called Aedes aegypti, aegyptia. It's a species of mosquito that carry yellow fever, dengue, Zika, a number of viruses that obviously are pretty adverse to human health. Each year, about 400 million people are infected with dengue virus via this mosquito vector. 100 million become ill, and 21,000 deaths are attributed to dengue. Globally, 200,000 cases of yellow fever each year, causing 30,000 deaths. These are pretty significant health concerns. And it turns out that in mosquito populations, not in this particular species that carry these viruses, but in other species of mosquito, there's a bacteria, a natural bacteria called Wolbachia. And this bacteria exists in nature. And sometimes these mosquitoes get infected with this bacteria. So they carry this bacterial bug. And this bacteria is really interesting because it causes what's called cytoplasmic instability in the mosquito cells, which actually makes the mosquito largely resistant to a lot of viruses. And there's a bunch of theories for this mechanism and why this is the case. But it causes the mosquito to not be able to carry and spread these viruses that are super adverse to human health. So number one, there's a natural bacteria that's found in nature, and up to 40% of mosquitoes are already infected with it. Number two is it's not common in the mosquito species that is common in these areas that are spreading these awful viruses to humans. And so there's been a project that's been going on now for 12 plus years where they're taking large amounts of mosquitoes and breeding them specifically to have this bacteria in the mosquitoes. And then they release those mosquitoes into the wild. And over time, the bacterial infected mosquitoes start to become a larger percentage of the population. And as a result, the vector of carrying these awful viruses into humans goes way down. There was a study done in Indonesia where they took these Wolbachia infected mosquitoes and they released them into the wild. And they looked at a population that was in a region where they released them and a population that they didn't. In the region where they didn't release them, 9.4% of people ended up getting infected with dengue fever. And where they did release them, only 2.3% were infected. So it was an amazing 75% reduction in the infection of people by these mosquitoes. And so the whole point is just to kind of, move the mosquito populations in a way without doing any sort of genetic modification, but by exposing them to this bacteria so that they don't carry these viruses into people. But, because
so
people
that's a nuanced point there, Friedberg. It's not genetic modification, or it is?
It's not. I just explained. It's a bacteria, and they just breed the mosquitoes. They're exposing so that they end up getting infected with this bacteria. And then as they breed, the mosquitoes breed in this facility.
Got it.
You have to have an infected male and an infected female for the offspring to have the bacteria. If you have an infected male, they're actually infertile. They can only fertilize an infected female. So unless you do this breeding work, you don't end up seeing this happen naturally in the environment where the Wolbachia starts to spread
Where
widely.
is the genetic modification misinformation coming from then? Or is that also occurring?
From the presidential candidate RFK Jr., who just propagated it. And so this is why I want to make this point, because this whole idea that, should we be engineering the earth? Let me just say something about engineering the earth. Humans used to wander around the earth, or proto-humans did, without access to food. And until we realized that we could plant a seed in the ground and grow crops and started to engineer the earth in the form of farming, we did not have access to a reliable source of calories. Human ingenuity, human engineering gave us the ability to do this, gave us the ability to feed ourselves. Similarly, humans got infected by viruses, by bacteria, by fungus, and died at a young age over and over again. And when humans began to engineer medicine and engineer unnatural substances, because he makes this point, should we be interfering in the natural world? What is natural is for people to get infected with viruses or bacteria and die. And if not for the advent of our engineering and our ingenuity and our ability as a species to create solutions through science, which allows us to do discovery, and then through engineering, which allows us to make solutions that solve problems that humans face, we would all be dead at a young age and we would not have realized the progress that we've had as a species. So I really get ticked off when I see guys like RFK Jr. and others not just propagate this BS misinformation spiel about, genetically modified this and that, science is bad, but to then say, should we be messing with the natural world? Because I would say to him, what about when your kid got infected and you gave your kid antibiotics? Maybe you shouldn't have done that. And this
And there
notion
is a group of people who are saying that you shouldn't do that, right? There is a movement to stop taking antibiotics because it's making, because it's having some negative impact.
I'll tell you a couple things. There are bad pesticides that impact human health and cause damage to our DNA. There is bad sunscreen that is endocrine disruptors and can damage human health. There are plenty of chemical products that are made that we use in everyday products that cause cancer. There is an endless string of things that are wrong with the systems of engineering.
There's this company that was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
They released 50,000 genetically modified mosquitoes. For what purpose? I don't know. But now, for the first time in 20 years, malaria has entered Florida.
Hey, malaria!
Like, the conspiracy is the new mosquitoes that he introduced were supposed to kill mosquitoes that carried malaria. And so they were specifically designed to combat those diseases.
But we haven't had a case of malaria in the U.S. in over 20 years. And since they released these mosquitoes, so far from what I know, there's been 5 cases of malaria. 4 in Florida and 1 in Texas.
A swing and a miss, Bill. A swing and a miss.
Stop messing with the bugs and stop doing all this stuff!
Quit going after the Titanic. Quit touching the mosquitoes. Leave everyone alone.
You know, Bill Gates also owns, like, the majority of all farmland in the
He
U.S.
owns a lot. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, why?
Have you heard the real conspiracy behind the mosquito thing now?
Was that not it?
No, there's another thing too that.
Oh.
Tell us.
Yeah. They really out here remixing mosquitoes like it's a mixtape. So here's the tea. A UK company named Oxitec decided it would be a good idea to engineer 2.4 billion. Yes, billion. Genetically modified mosquitoes. They made them so that when they mate with females, only non-body male babies survive. Sounds good, right? Mm-hmm. Until you realize ain't no such thing as 100% in science, fam. So here's the problem. What if a few bite-happy females survive? What if them GMO mosquitoes catch a glitch like a 2K player and start acting up? What if they mix with other wild bugs and next thing you know, we got a mosquito rat flying around? You laughing now. But Florida already got flying cockroaches, so stop playing. And peep this. Turns out there's an antibiotic called tetracycline floating around in the environment. And it might help the engineered females survive and mutate. Bruh, it's giving Marvel villain origin story. So the bottom line is, they trying to fix a problem that wasn't even a real threat yet. They ain't being transparent with the public. And we, the regular people, gonna have to deal with it if it backfires. It's giving Jurassic Park, but in the hood. Follow your boy Crypto Black. Drop a mosquito emoji if you not trying to get bit by a GMO in 2025. And tag somebody who needs to hear this because they think everything tech is good tech. See you next time.
A couple days after I told you guys about how the Gates Foundation was forced in a very rare move to deny claims by Kenyans that they had actually unleashed GMO mosquitoes in Nairobi, after a very popular politician / lawyer or whatever tweeted about it, accusing Bill Gates of unleashing, because there's been this crazy mosquito kind of epidemic going on, not even just in Nairobi, but even in Mombasa. They've been vicious. But anyway, how does the Gates Foundation now all of a sudden donate $200 million to Kenya's Ministry of Health, to help women and obstetric care and abortions and contraceptions and all this stuff? Coincidence? Y'all know I don't believe in coincidence. There's nothing like coincidence. And actually, this is kind of scary. Because for them to just come up with like 200M, 26 billion Kenya shillings, and it's not even for the next fiscal year or whatever. This lands in the Ministry of Health of Kenya's account today. That's how yo. So you don't think, what the hell are they trying to cover up, maybe? Yeah, but let me know in the comments below, because there are no coincidences, fam. There's nothing like coincidence. This is for entertainment purposes only. So, family.
Ultimate plot twist in global health. We're talking about flying vaccinators. Imagine taking humanity's most notorious disease spreader, the mosquito, and actually flipping the script to turn it into a life-saving health ally. The lead researcher, Meta Rostenberg, really hit the nail on the head when she said, mosquito bites now deliver protection instead of disease. I mean, just pause and think about that for a second. We are talking about a world where a mosquito landing on your arm and biting you is exactly what you want to happen. It completely shatters everything we've ever been taught to fear about these little bugs, right?
It's a total paradigm shift. For practically all of human history, mosquitoes have been vectors of disease. They're basically tiny hypodermic needles transmitting dangerous pathogens like the malaria parasite straight into our blood. But the new paradigm? They become vectors for vaccines. So instead of delivering a pathogen that makes you horribly sick, they deliver an antigen that builds up your immunity. It's just a stunning leap from an ancient reality of illness to an exciting new reality of widespread protection.
So how on earth do you engineer a flying vaccinator? Well, it takes a massive global effort. Let's actually step into the laboratory for a minute to see how some truly brilliant minds are rewriting the biological code of both the mosquito and the parasite it carries. We've got these pioneering teams from the Netherlands, specifically the Leiden University Medical Center and Radboud University, and they're joining forces with international partners, very prominently including researchers down in Colombia. And this collaboration is absolutely vital. You've got to bring in experts from countries with high mosquito prevalence, like Colombia, so you can combine that cutting-edge, high-tech lab research with crucial on-the-ground expertise from the regions actually most affected by these tropical diseases.
A huge piece of this puzzle is translational science. Because, it's not enough to just do some cool gene editing in a sterile, perfectly controlled lab. Translational science is the critical bridge that takes these wild, high-tech discoveries and translates them into practical, real-world applications. The goal here is to eventually integrate this right into existing vector control programs in places like Colombia to really maximize the impact on global health.
Okay, so how are they actually tweaking the biology? Well, researchers are using advanced genetics to target specific things like AgTREO, which is a protein found in mosquito saliva. By targeting this with mRNA vaccines, or by modifying the infectious stage of the malaria parasite itself, they can ensure that when the mosquito bites, it stimulates a protective immune response without actually causing the disease. They're essentially creating a live, attenuated vaccine that is literally carried by the insect. How wild is that? Let's shift gears for a second and look at the actual mechanics of this so-called natural syringe. Like, how exactly does this engineered insect interact with the human body to give you immunity without a doctor ever coming near you with a needle? It basically boils down to 3 natural steps. First, the genetically engineered mosquito bites a human. Second, using its own natural biological tools, it completely bypasses medical needles and delivers these modified antigens directly into your skin and bloodstream. And finally, step 3, this introduction reliably triggers a really robust immune response, generating immunity against future natural malaria infections. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, but are we actually testing this on real people? The answer is yes, through what are called controlled human infection studies. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Under highly strict medical supervision, incredibly brave volunteers are actually exposed to these modified parasites so scientists can safely test the vaccine's efficacy. And the news so far? It's phenomenal. Ongoing trials are already demonstrating high protection levels, showing that this immunogenicity, which is basically just how well the vaccine triggers your immune response, is absolutely working in humans. So we've covered the how, but let's take a step back and look at the profound why behind all this research. Because I want to be clear, this isn't just some clever biological party trick. This is a massive breakthrough for global longevity. By turning a natural disease vector into a powerful health ally, we're looking at drastically reducing the global disease burden. I mean, preventing severe malaria infections worldwide offers millions and millions of people the chance at longer, far more vibrant lives, completely free from that debilitating cycle of recurring tropical diseases. By stimulating robust immune protection early on, we are quite literally unlocking a new era of human resilience and global longevity.
Plus, this technology could solve one of the absolute biggest logistical nightmares in all of global health, which is reaching remote populations. Think about the crazy infrastructure required for traditional vaccines, right? You need cold chain storage, sterile needles, trained medical staff, physical clinics. These flying vaccinators, they bypass all of that. They offer a simple, natural delivery system that can disperse into isolated communities way faster and far more effectively than traditional medical infrastructure ever could. By integrating with existing vector control, the mosquitoes literally do the legwork of the vaccination campaign for us.
Now, as absolutely incredible as this all sounds, it is definitely time for a reality check. The science is advancing super rapidly, but we have to remember this still remains in the experimental stage, and there are some significant hurdles to clear before we're going to see any kind of wide-scale deployment. For starters, the scientific and safety challenges are frankly highly complex. First up is precise dosing control. With a traditional needle, a doctor knows exactly how much vaccine you're getting. But with a mosquito bite, standardizing that dose is incredibly difficult. Scientists also have to rigorously monitor any potential long-term effects and ensure the absolute ecological and biological safety of releasing genetically engineered organisms out into the wild. You can't really put the genie back in the bottle once they're out there.
But honestly, perhaps the most massive hurdle isn't even in the laboratory at all. It's public acceptance. For generations, public health messaging has correctly told people to avoid mosquito bites at literally all costs. And now, scientists have to try and convince communities to trust this new technology, to actively welcome and adopt the bite of a genetically modified insect. Overcoming that deeply ingrained fear and building real trust is going to be just as critical as the gene editing itself.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've seen how global researchers, from the Netherlands to Colombia, are attempting to turn the tide on malaria, transforming an ancient enemy into a modern medical marvel. But the ultimate success of this technology relies just as much on human psychology as it does on biology. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. Knowing the rigorous science behind it, and knowing its potential to rid the world of a devastating disease, would you welcome a mosquito bite if it meant extending the human lifespan? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.
Altered mosquitoes. A first, it seems, on the African continent. We're going to talk to the mayor.
Only, of course, I am not a scientist and cannot know whether these genetically modified mosquitoes can cause other problems.
Est-ce que ces moustiques-là transformés génétiquement ne vont pas créer d'autres problèmes?
Did you know that there was a similar project in Brazil?
No, I don't know anything about that.
The mayor doesn't know about the Brazilian field trial, but we do. In September 2019, the prestigious science journal Nature published a report by independent researcher Jeffrey Powell. He was worried by his findings.
I have a project going on in Brazil with people in Rio de Janeiro. And I heard about this program going on in Jacobina, where they're doing these releases of Oxitec. So I think, okay, if they're not doing it, maybe we should check to see if it's happening.
What happened is that you and your team, you physically captured genetically modified mosquitoes to see what happened with them, right?
Right. We wanted to check, do any of the genes that were in the release strain now incorporated into the natural population or the target population.
Okay.
And that's what we found.
The gene modification experiment failed twice. First, the mosquitoes could not be eradicated. Second, the genetically modified mosquitoes reproduced with the endemic population and passed on their modified genes. Jeffrey Powell fears that all mosquitoes in the area may now be more robust.
So my question is that they could have been more robust to what? Insects?
Just to have a better viability, be stronger, maybe have a quicker development time. These are all things which you can find when you make hybrids. Sometimes they can develop faster, they become larger, they live longer, they're more fertile. That's what I'm thinking.
Welcome to the first episode of Humans Will Be Their Own Downfall, where I tell you the stories of humans doing the absolute most. And today we're talking about genetically modified mosquitoes being released into the wild. Biotech company Oxitec are releasing genetically modified mosquitoes in hopes of combating dengue fever, which is a potentially deadly disease transmitted by mosquito bites. According to research, mosquitoes are becoming increasingly resistant to insecticides, and these new genetically modified mosquitoes are weaker, don't live as long, and and hopefully will become the dominant species and be easier to control. My theory is that we're fucking ourselves without any lube, and we're gonna end up with something like this in a few years.
You eating chicken, that's not a real animal. You eating pigs, that's not a real animal. You drinking cow milk, that's not a real animal. They genetically modified all of these animals. A mosquito just bite you, that's not a real animal. Bill Gates was making them, so they not natural. Salmon, sorry, not a real animal. I cannot lie, bitch, I only speak factual. Dogs and cats, not no real animal. Mice and rats, not no real animal. Goats and sheep, not no real animal. Shit is so fake, they might be supernatural. They made all of these fake animals international, and we be eating this shit is so radical. Sorry, a donkey is not a real animal. Most of these monkeys is not no real animals. Birds be robots, not real animals. If you be eating these shit, need to cancel it. They splicing these shit with humans, you a cannibal, and you be tearing it up like an animal. If you be eating it, you is irrational. Eat you some fruits and vegetables, it's natural. Come on part 2 if you want me to expose more of these fake ass animals.
So, as you can see, we've seen a lot of corporate doublespeak, couple shills, well, just one shill really. And I don't like to get political with these things because it's not political to me. This is a matter of human basic rights to have access to their own body and not to be vaccinated by mosquitoes against their will. As you can see, this is the agenda that Bill Gates has been pushing for the past 20 years under the guise of trying to eliminate the mosquitoes. He has not been trying to eliminate the mosquitoes, because if he was actually doing that, that's what would actually happen. But as you can see from the independent researchers, that never happened. When the independent studies, they find contradictory evidence to what is presented by the corporate scientists. And this is a recurring theme, because as you can see in that propaganda piece, they're trying to push the idea of vaccines into mosquitoes and trying to tell you that's a good idea. We saw how COVID took place. Oh, that was great. That was handled so well. So now they want to put vaccines into mosquitoes and vaccinate the world because it's so great. Because vaccines are so good for you. What they don't tell you is the first thing vaccines do is shut down your pineal gland, shut down any type of spiritual connection that you have to the cosmos. The great Credo Mutwa said that to try and prevent them from doing it to them back in the day, they used to fake a little burn on the side of the hand here, make it seem like they got the injection when they really didn't keep the eye open, you know what I mean? But yeah, the first thing Bill Gates come with is, oh yes, we're trying to reduce the population of mosquitoes, and that's how he gets people to trust his bullshit. And then when you trust the bullshit, and then you allow him to come in your country and develop these mosquitoes like they did in Jamaica, like they're doing in Colombia, and then these mosquitoes start to generate in some massive ways now. The change in these mosquitoes is quite drastic. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, how did it take place? It took place because you've been modifying these mosquitoes for over 20 years. That's the reality of the situation. You can see in the video, they've been modifying pigs, goats, chicken, mice, rats, anything you can think of. They've been messing with them, splicing the DNAs, all of this stuff. No big deal. And how are they able to do this? I mean, I just say you could check one of my videos called "The Colonization of Education." You know, kind of give you an idea how they get away with all of this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of influence, and with that influence, they do a lot of double speak. So as you can see, Bill Gates is saying, yeah, we're gonna reduce the population with these mosquitoes somehow. We're gonna use the CRISPR gene manipulation technology, and we're going to reduce populations and therefore reduce disease and all these good things, you know, things that everybody could actually agree to. But behind closed doors, what are you really doing? You just claim to be producing males to sterilize the females and then sterilize the population. And then the video in Colombia clearly shows that you're producing females more than you're producing the males, and you're releasing those into the population. So you're already contradicting yourself right there. Yeah, it's disgusting, I tell you. Disgusting. And then, because of political things with RFK, this idiotic commentator want to come and act like him know anything about science and anything about ancient history and anything about ancient peoples and how they produce food. We didn't do monoculture. We had a variety of things growing, and therefore we never needed to starve. Africa is one of the most abundant places in the world. India used to be one of the most abundant places in the world. And thanks to these corporate entities and white supremacy and colonization, you turn these places upside down, have everybody fighting each other now. But back to the GMO mosquitoes. As you can see, the end game, really and truly, is to infect these mosquitoes with vaccines, and now they want to try to convince the population that vaccines in mosquitoes is somehow a good thing, when they haven't even proven that they can reduce the population of mosquitoes, which is what they were doing in the first place, allegedly. Crazy. Absolute craziness. Anyway, this is for entertainment, educational purposes, just so you don't misunderstand. Oh man. And that video from Kenya clearly shows that they've been covering things up. They've been covering it up and covering the tracks somehow, you know. Fact of the matter is, when you operate in how he operates, you tend to get away with a lot more things than the average Joe would. So the worst thing is knowing that he is a eugenicist, that he wants to reduce the world population, and now he's using mosquitoes in his so-called arsenal of things in order to accomplish that goal. Anyway, this is Shimpimpin. See you in the next one.